hydraulic pot launcher where it just
Catapult, sea lion catapult.
It probably end up being a game.
You can put a boxing glove on it, like a cartoon.
You could sell tickets for
Sea
that.
Lion Olympics out there. Sea Lion Disneyland. They come from all over to get launched.
Yeah, exactly. Another 20.
Yeah. My
How's-
turn, my turn.
How's your husband doing today?
He was hurting.
Yeah.
Did Davey stay and spend the night?
Actually, I gave Yukon his ride, normal ride home at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Something
When I
that,
came
you
back,
didn't
Dave
have,
was
you just
gone.
shouldn't have done that.
Oh.
I sat over here on purpose so that I wouldn't be hogging the food.
He come He finished his nap.
Yeah.
He was taking a nap after he cooked the shrimp. Fabulous shrimp.
That was
was
good.
really good.
Really good.
The whole thing was good.
I told him if anybody ever called him at no account that he wasn't good for nothing, I said, send him to me. I'll let him know. You can cook some shrimp, Dave.
Davey. Good egg.
Yeah, you better move that around too.
This was the side dish I was going to bring last night. And I ended up doing concrete instead.
What were you concreting? Did you get a leftover batch or something?
Yeah, well, whenever they were, I've
Put that
been
in your hand, eh?
Had
keeping
another,
track, and whenever they do a
batch of
pour,
shrimp dip at my house.
there's usually some left over, and I have forms out at 8.5 Mile around my sawmill.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I've been making pads for posts. And I just finished last night. Here we go.
Where are we on the agenda? You're actually.
Way,
You're not on the agenda.
Way down at the end.
Oh, the Pap Keys thing?
Yeah.
There won't be.
Move you guys to the top. Except Jared. Jared was here first. Hi. You bet.
We can just amend it and get these guys taken care of.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
We all want to get back to work, though. They don't
Glenn,
have
I know
work to
Glenn
do.
was coming.
Is he?
He said he was.
Yeah.
I talked to him
You
this
got
morning.
it.
It's like we were just here.
Joseph
I called
And Jeff.
Fun, but he's been entertaining, so he hasn't been around a lot. But these people were supposed to leave today.
So
Well, I dare say there hasn't been a party anywhere in the world with that kind of food.
Oh my lord.
Holy moly. And a great layout. Well,
I got down one side of that table and discovered that my plate was full with salads. But it was-
Dave's birthday party last night.
fabulous salads, huh?
Boy,
Yeah.
produced.
Yeah. Made a meal of
There he
salads.
is.
There's Glenn.
We had oysters.
Were those from Kaufman?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good oysters.
Guess we can get started. We got a quorum, and then they can come in. Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order, and present on the Harbour Board is Dave Tinas, Glenn Reed, Bob Martin, and Bob Dolan, and myself, Mike Banks. So we need to approve the minutes of the regular meeting we had on April 24th and a special meeting on May 3rd. Entertain a motion to adopt them. Or
He
to accept the minutes.
graciously got those together for us, so I you didn't get I brought extras for.
Here comes Joseph.
There's Joseph. And Joseph Quitzlin just showed up.
I move to approve the minutes of both those meetings.
Moved. For a second?
Has to be somebody that there was with both of them. I wasn't.
Let Glenn and Bob look through them real quick. Joseph.
So, motion to approve or
Yes, there's been a motion. We just need a second.
second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the last two meetings we had. Hold on. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the last two meetings, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Aye.
Kurt.
And Kurt Walton just showed up, representative from the Borough Assembly. Okay, is there
That's your,
amendment approval of this meeting's agenda?
Yeah, I'll second.
Well, what do you suggest we
Well, I was still
move
reading.
these guys up the agenda so that they can
my
take care of?
report is really, really short, so we can do that and go right, maybe if Jared doesn't mind sitting here in the heat, we could just switch A and B.
I can pay the
Okay,
same.
yeah, well, it won't take very long. We'll switch A and B then. Okay, so we'll amend the agenda to switch A and B. And is there a move to adopt the agenda?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Okay. Visitors' views unrelated to the agenda. Is there anybody unrelated to the agenda? Anybody related to the agenda?
I just want to make some comments. You guys are talking about the sea lion and like that.
Okay, we'll cover that when we get down there. Okay, Harbor Master's report.
Okay, well, we're back to our regular staff. We got Engel back for the summer. We still have to get Hofter and Engel up to renew their flip cards. We got the large crane painted and ready to go. It's bright yellow.
Nice
Love it, love it.
dandelion
That
yellow.
32-year-old crane is back. Brand new guts, the whole thing. She's back for another 32 years. We had a problem on the float surface of the South Harbor loading zone, right where the crane dock, or where the cruise ships tie up, and so we got that all finished up. Signage, all that kind of business going on. North Harbor, we're just waiting for the on-site to begin. Power and Lights prepping the electrical. The road project is, they paved it yesterday, finished that, so hopefully we'll be open back up for regular business here shortly. Drive down project, you guys were all at the work sessions, you know how that went. And just a reminder that the 95 review will be in September, so hopefully when you guys will reconvene end of the summer, we will have something to focus on. Talk about fish cleaning stations later. The South Harbor parking entrance, I just wanted to kind of keep you up to speed on that. You know, when they're done with Main Street, they're going to move on and go from the bridge out to the ferry terminal, and part of that is they're going to look at all of the sidewalks and redo those as well. And so they have now noticed that our South Harbor, south entrance, there by the grid, is larger than supposedly what they like. So currently it's 88 feet wide, and they would like to reduce it down to two 24-foot openings, in and an out, with an island in the middle for people to scamper across and then hold up and then scamper across the other one, and you know, because apparently our situation here is very dangerous for pedestrians. So we've been fighting about this back and forth for the last couple of months. Fighting is kind of maybe it might escalate into a fight, but right now we're just kind of trading ideas back and forth. On Friday, I actually have Carl's helping me with this, and we want to paint it what the kind of a little simulation. That on Friday we're going to have Rockies come with their great big trailer and try and see how this will work, because it will obviously affect the traffic flow out there. We're not quite sure how you can get the big trailer with a herring skiff on it, you know, around this kind of an operation. And while they're backing forth and, you know, trying to figure out how they're going to get exit using the 24-foot exit, what's going to happen to the lineup of people that are trying to get, you know, go the other way. And so try and figure out how this is all going to work, and maybe go in from a different direction. It might end up being a little bit more of a political fight. But
Has there been any accidents on that
no,
site?
and the first thing I came back to them and said, well, you know, we have this new fire hall that has actually a 118-foot opening there. I mean, why is that allowed right over a pedestrian trail? You know, why did you allow that? Well, it's special because they're, you know, emergency. Well, I said, you know, and what I've been telling the guy, and it's the variety of pecking order there in the state, but that what's going to end up happening is you have Rockies and numerous other people trying to jockey around this exit, and what's going to end up happening is people are now going to then just, you know, I'll just get by this one time and go out through the in you know, incoming lane, and then we're gonna be talking about some
Pedestrian
issues.
overpass.
So, I don't know, right now they're kind of playing hardball, but we'll see. So, I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that.
Yeah, that seems like that would be really inconvenient.
Yeah, it could be really.
I mean, I like to go diagonal, you know, because
Yeah.
you get lined up with the traffic, you can see, well,
Right.
you can see pedestrians well.
We talked about doing a third exit, maybe closer to Matson's rental there, but boy, if you're out there trying to, you know, cut a corner like that, especially with people parking and that house there, we really can't go much further south in that area there, so if it's not road wide,
I was
fix
gonna
it.
say, and this has been working for how long?
Exactly, and I would expect that, you know, you would hope that 30-plus years of doing it this way would speak for something, and that we've never had an
No
accident.
traffic fatalities there.
You know, no, we haven't. I mean, we took the rhododendrons out, and we've, you know, those kind of things to try and alleviate some of the bottlenecks, but anyway.
I hope they address the drainage issues there when
Mm-hmm.
they're designed. That's the biggest safety issue of that whole area.
Ice is up.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does. Yeah, good point. Well, they're gonna be doing a lot there, and, you know, and to keep it into consideration too, that this is a multi-million-dollar project, and we're just, you know, please would you think about this as well, so you can kind of weigh the, you know,
Well, it'd be
argument.
cheaper, I would think, to just make it more even grade and easier to clean and.
Yeah. So I'll keep you posted on that. The other exciting thing probably is that Ocean Beauty Vice President Don Black showed up here last week, and he came over and we just started visiting where we've been continuing to visit about the old piston and rudder site. He wanted to get a little bit more of an idea on if the city or if the borough or if the harbor was at all interested in any portion of that property, and I said, well, you know, we've talked about it, and we kind of gave it a pass at first glance when they came to us and offered it for us for $280,000, but Ocean Beauty is interested. They are very interested in the building, but not at that price, and they've been negotiating some price as well. And so there might be something where we end up with the Tidelands. I suggested that in trade for, you know, some of the Tidelands that Piston Rudder currently has. I haven't talked to Lure himself yet, but I did talk to Steve, and so I'll probably go meet with Lure to see if he's interested in maybe a three-way trade, and somehow the borough doesn't end up having to, you know, give away any money, but maybe it would be to our benefit to be able to grab that, just because it would be nice to have that chunk for future expansion if we do another workload, or if just to alleviate some of the you know, some of the what could happen there, the what if somebody does buy it and they start, you know, using it, or maybe pushing the boundary, pushing the outer limits that Lure used to, and it created quite a bottleneck for people trying to get to the grid and those kind of things. So, you know, maybe it would be worth it for us.
So if we made that quick trade with Mike, even if he didn't want to trade it, and the person wanted to build something else, do we have any precedent for eminent domain if we're going to be using those? Because we're going to have stalls going that way.
Yeah, we are.
So it's going to be a traffic issue.
Could be.
It will be. So we would even have to purchase it from Mike or make any kind of trade, so, you know, we're going to condemn it
Well,
for the
that,
better use of the
as
better
an
use of the community.
assemblyman, I suppose you could.
No, I would
probably.
defer that one to Leo.
There isn't a precedent that the city's never used eminent
Never
domain.
Yeah.
Usually it works something out.
There's a lot of litigation involved with
Yeah, I
that.
would imagine, yeah. So, and, you know, just to, I mean, I'm sure you all aware that that's a private thing. That was Lures themselves, and now we have a partnership going out at the present Piston and Rudder. So there might be some kind of we'd have to sit down and really visit about it with them.
That asset is Mike and Barb's.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't go with
No.
Vision.
Right. Okay, just got word from the Scow Bay Tideland patent number 466, which is the Tidelands out there, came through on the 3rd of June at exactly 1:54 p.m. Finally got signed. 20 years. We started this in 1993.
Wow.
And here we have the signed document. So, it's ours, people, and now we can go forth and hopefully develop Scow Bay into whatever it the future holds.
Is that 605?
It is 466.
Do we have a map of that anywhere? I guess I can
I can
show
show
it
it to you.
office.
Yeah, it's just pretty much the bottom of the, it's where the land ends and it goes out to the end of the narrows or out to the middle.
Okay.
So it's about 11.5 acres.
Nice.
And then just got in the mail this morning, I attached it to your Harbor Masters report, but we were successful in both our grants.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
For the trawler workfloat and the fish cleaning station.
Nice.
So 226,000 for the fish cleaning station, which I hope we can, you know, kind of put into the bigger picture on the sea lion issue. And then 46,000 for the trawler workfloat, which we'll, as soon as we get the signed documents, we can begin on that August 1st when we start to dismantle the North Harbor.
This is federal money?
State.
State?
Yep, Alaska Fish and Game Mitigation. So we had to have the ATA sign off on, they essentially gave Petersburg their portion of their rebate.
Yeah.
And they essentially gave Petersburg the sport fish portion for this project. They also, we were successful, I had written a couple letters on Tonka's behalf. They also were awarded their grant, their full grant, which was almost 300,000, and a part of that was a fish grinder and new floats. So they are really encouraged about this, again, the sea lion issue, and hopefully we'll be able to here throughout the winter build a nice facility for sport fishermen to come in and, you know, deal with their product there. And, you know, so we're looking good on this. How are we going to get rid of carcasses issues? So, anyway.
Sea lion carcasses?
Are there any out of work cats?
Yeah. Oh, man.
I've got a few strays.
Yes, we have. So lots of busy down in the harbor, lots of traffic, everybody's getting ready to go, and that's it for me.
Okay, any questions for Lo? Okay, we don't have any unfinished business, so we can move on down to new business, and we're going to skip to B, Papke's Landing.
Thanks for letting us jump ahead, Jared. I'll try to make this quick. Yeah, the borough received a request from one of the residents out past Papke's Landing that the city should look at something about that dock area and parking and other issues. Took this to planning and zoning last night, and they unanimously recommended that we have a land selection committee for selecting borough lands. And we have this map, I believe. The waterside parcel is parcel 8A, and they recommended that we recommend the land selection committee identify this parcel for acquisition as owned by DNR. And then tract 8B, the upland area, is owned by mental health. We would like to recommend to the council that we try to acquire that land. $500 filing fee, which would get things going. I don't know if we would buy it, try to select it, which is debatable whether that's possible, but it's worth a try, or select some other land and try to initiate a trade. Mental health, that could take forever, might make their Tideland process look fast, but it's still worth a try. So, in the long range interest of the borough, a lot of people from all over use that dock, and it's in terrible shape and landing, and I think eventually it'd be a natural thing to have a nice parking lot out there, and rebuilt facility, and provide better access for all the borough residents.
Where's parking now, Leo?
Yeah, it's in this tract A, or it's past the tract A on the waterfront area, but it's just a mess.
Yeah. Muckmeyer.
I guess I was told
Logging, staging.
DOT went out and
Yeah.
actually drew
And then
some
they also-
lines in the dirt. That helped for a little while, but if we had this upland area, you could have a real parking lot that people could access and have a really nice facility.
My concern about using it as selected property, you know, we could work something out with the state. I was thinking more, I'd like to see us try to acquire that property as a deal to go with the dock. So the state could find some other land to give mental health, and then it doesn't have to come out of our properties. And it seemed like the state would, and they've got other lands that they could give mental health that they might be
We could do that
more.
politically also. But
That's-
step one would be to apply to acquire the land so they could put a value on it and do their work, and then whether we go political or horse trade or whatever, we'd have something, they won't do anything unless there's an application.
So have we gone to that point of
That's
submitting,
what I'm
or
hoping you'll recommend that.
Acres.
so we would?
Go ahead.
You want a recommendation to a borough assembly to?
Yeah, planning and zoning did one last night. And normally we'd wait for you, but the meetings didn't line up, and we probably won't have a quorum here for quite some time. We're thinking the sooner the better, as the person in mental health seems to be pretty willing to consider this, and that's not always the case.
I think it would be a headache for them to deal with that parking lot stuff.
I'm
I mean,
hoping
as far
they
as
realize that, yeah. They've got a lot of, when they put the notes on all the cars out there, and I don't think it was a pleasant experience.
Well, what's the latest, Will, on from DOT on the docks?
Well, as we all know, that will be the easiest portion of all of this. We currently are in discussion with Mike Lection, who is the only port and harbor guy at the state level. He puts everything like this together. He is currently working this summer on preparing a proposal for the borough that will include this facility, Cooper Knot, and Entrance Island. One package, take it or leave it. Here's a number. There will probably be a little wiggle room on what that number ends up being, but he's interested in getting rid of it. The state wants to get rid of all of their dock systems into a municipality or a borough's hands, and so they're actively doing that. We've gone through it 3 times here in the city or in the borough with all 3 of our harbor facilities. So been through it many times. It's very easy. All it has to do is go through one legislative session. So in my opinion, will be the very easiest part of it.
So I'm hearing.
Now, there won't be, just from my opinion, there probably won't be much negotiation. I mean, he is strictly ports and harbors and these kind of facility. He does not have a clue about mental health or those kind of things.
Right.
Mental health just wants cash. I mean, they just like to be cashed out or be able to do, that's what they're after, is selling, saleable property, so.
So Mike has been sweet enough so that you think this is a deal that people would buy into then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I do.
I mean, in terms of
because-
the floats.
Yep, the float system, and,
Yeah.
and the state also offers, we've been through it now numerous times, the tier program where you offer up, half of a project, or you offer up an amount of money and they will meet you, give you an equal amount. They like to see skin in the game. And so, and because we pushed the issue 2 years ago, we, in Petersburg, the legislature, included in the law that says that, deferred maintenance money, which is the money that they will give us for taking this off their hands, can be included in that grant program. Originally it wasn't. And so that was a real feather in our cap for getting as far as we did on the North Harbour.
Right.
And same thing will happen out here. And so it's I think that is, but parking is, it's kind of the other piece that you need. So.
Well, from your end of the deal, how would this affect the staff? I mean, the harbor staff. Would this, if we do acquire this, which it looks like we're going to, is that going to add?
Well, it's a
of,
borough issue. We haven't even begun to talk about who's going to take care of this dock facility. So I think parking issue would be, currently we farm it out to the police station, our local parking lots. I mean, that's who monitors our all parking for the borough. They take the revenue in and then they employ somebody to do this. And I think there's lots of opportunity for kind of a person that can, catch all. We now have Parks and Rec people that are driving all the way out to Banana Point to dump a garbage can. Maybe they can stop in here and dump a garbage can and write a few tickets too. Maybe this is, one of those things that now that we're a borough, we're gonna have to look at things from a little bit different perspective. I don't have the staff to be out there babysitting this, and it will require a lot of babysitting, especially in the, you know, the near term, because we've gone through it at Scow Bay. Yikes. I mean, we patrol that every day, but it's, you know, that's 3 miles. It's not.
Halfway across the island.
Yeah. So, anyway, but that's doable, I'm sure, from a borough perspective, maybe not from a harbor perspective.
I wonder how excited the Papkes and people that use that dock right now would be excited about having to foot the bill for tying their skiffs up there now. Would they rather just keep with the float system now that they're getting for free? Or would they like to have moorage tacked onto a new float?
I think there's probably argument on either side of that.
Because if we got to send somebody out, somebody's got to pay for
Yeah,
it.
sure.
Mhm.
And if
Yeah,
it's-
and for maintenance.
Yeah.
So, and if that person goes out there and checks that, maybe they can check the parking too, and it'll be really nice organized. Maybe at some point we have a satellite out there. Who knows? But
We may be having
right
just
now,
dark
I would
floats.
say, yeah, say thumbs up on the
Boomsticks.
grabbing this chunk of land if it's possible. And
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to recommend to the assembly that we go ahead and go through the application process to acquire this property?
or have, you know.
Yeah.
So move.
Okay, it's been moved to recommend that we go forward with trying to acquire this property. Here a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of sending a recommendation to the assembly, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay,
Thank you.
yeah.
If it goes through the assembly, we'll get right on it and report back to you mental health response.
Great,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so that was good.
Good job moving it along.
Fish cleaning station recommendations.
Yeah, which is the 20-year process.
So we got this fish cleaning recommendations.
Okay,
What's,
well, we have talked about fish cleaning stations. We've talked about sea lion issues. This all began with, in your packet, we got a letter from Jared's boss there saying, you know, we gotta start looking at this issue, and Noah feels that it's probably, we're doing a little bit of baiting the animals in, and so if we can look at helping the situation by changing the way we operate, maybe it'll all help. So, initially, what we did was to grab everybody's attention after visiting with Jared, pulling the stations out. But thought that over a little bit more. We left one in, the one in the end of the middle harbor, so there's a lot of current out there, and we've never had a sea lion issue. Just so that there would be some place to direct people. But then as the weekend came around, visiting with more people, visiting with Sportfish, visiting with the Tonka and Coastal. We put one back in and just put signs on it that said, hey, due to the aggressive sea lion issue, we're requesting you to take your carcasses and your fish waste away from here before you dump it. And I think people got the message, and it escalated into a little bit more of a conversation at the assembly level. We invited Jared and Fish and Game. There's a lot of regulations that require people to bring their product back to town, and so, you know, so then it kind of becomes our problem. I don't want to take the fish cleaning stations out, because as the way I see it, it'll revert back to what it was before this whole thing started, before we got the funding, or before the Fish and Game put the fish cleaning stations in. You had people cleaning sport caught fish primarily, or subsistence caught fish, in 16-foot skiffs out in the middle of the float, stopping traffic, you know, just creating a nuisance, and, you know, all the stuff that goes along with that. So we kind of tried to direct people to specific locations, and it helped a lot. Then people have abused, you know, I mean, 1 or 2 times a year you're down there doing it, and you toss a you know, toss a head or something to the sea lion to make them dance. Well, you may only do it once or twice, but, you know, compound that over every subsistence fisherman, every group that, you know, everybody that brings their people to town and shows them a good weekend, good time, you know, and then it turns into a real nuisance. So, the way I'm approaching it is that as you go further through your packet, you'll see that our municipal code or our borough charter, our borough code specifies under prohibited acts the dumping of D, garbage, trash, oil, it does, you know, all these things, but it doesn't specifically say fish waste, carcasses, those kind of things. And if you go through our policy that is built, the Harbour policy that is built around our codes, it kind of, you know, turns it from legal jargon down to common set practices. We have noted the fish cleaning stables located where they are. These are for sport caught fish. We can't do the commercial caught because they're provided by the Fish and Game and sport division, not the commercial division, and so there are some strings attached to those. And we're just asking them to clean up after they're done. We don't specify take your out because it's not backed up in the code, in the city code, that, you know, we can't give them any more rules that aren't be able to back up. So I've included, you know, I went through everybody else's, not everybody, but a lot of other harbors that may or may not have issues. And the only other real harbor that has kind of the similar issue that we do with the sea lions is Sitka. And so they have, I put what they have actually put into their city code or their borough code under 13.10.110. And they've actually listed something, and it says disposal of any fish, shellfish, or other animal or waste parts of fish, shellfish, or other animal in the waters of the harbor system or waters within 1/2 mile of any boat harbor. Fine for any violation is set out, and I listed those. First one is a warning, then you have a $100 ticket, $200, and a $400 ticket, and then who knows what happens after that. So you back that up. This is how they put it into the second page, their regulations, their policy. And it just says it's unlawful to clean fish in any portion of the city and borough dock or float except at a designated fish cleaning station. And then it goes on to list, you know, kind of what ours does. Fish waste is to be taken a 1/2 mile out past the harbor jurisdiction. No dumping is allowed within the harbors. So that kind of puts it into language you can understand. And again, I went through other places, Homer and Wrangell, but they don't have the sea lion issue, and so they don't have it spelled out. What they do in Homer is they take it up land. They have a 30-person station. I visited this. It's up in the parking lot. They have 3 people hired to babysit this deal, and they take their fish carcasses, and it's surrounded by mosquito nets, and it's, you know, there's music and there's lights and there's bug zappers and all this kind. It's a big party because they have 10,000 people launching a weekend.
Wow.
So it's a big deal for them, and
Right.
there's money to be made, you know, in a place like this. And then you go to, you know, Wrangell, and they don't even talk about it.
They shoot the problem over there.
And sewer, they don't even talk
They take
about
care
these
of it.
things. So I came back to Sitka and, you know, and looked at kind of what they did, and I included in your packet a picture. So this is what they're able to do because they have a city code to back them up. They're able to list, you know, little threats that, you know, no dumping of fish carcasses, and here it is, the Sitka General Code 13 dash da da da. And to put that in a little bit more layman's language, it's due to excessive sea lions activity, all fish carcasses need to be dumped away from this area, and the little catch is failure to comply will result in the removal of these facilities. You know, like, don't be an idiot and, you know, do this to incite the sea lions. So that's kind of where I think we could go if you want to recommend to the assembly to maybe take the removal of fish waste to another level. But I'd like to keep the stations in. I'd like to keep them kind of working the way they are, not get into a collection site, but more of returning the responsibility onto the person, not becoming our responsibility. What they do in Sitka is, I think I've showed most of you pictures, but they have wonderful sites. You know, this is where these are at, and you can see the totes that they have. They have hired a person at $40,000 a season, June 1st to the first week in September, that babysits this thing. They come in, they deck bucket out the fish guts into their boat or skiff, whatever, and they run it out past the airport. And they've been recommended there not to dump it at one site, so they, on the fly, deck bucket over the gurry and the fish and the whatever, and then they do this, they repeat this a couple times a day. And so, but again, this is at a facility where probably 90% of the use is for somebody that you could pass on the cost of this to. It's 90% charter, 90% people that are a paying customer, 10% local people, subsistence people. Here it's the exact opposite. We maybe have 10% of the use over there is a paying customer, and the way that gets handled currently is Coastal or Tonka will come down, collect everything. They'll collect the fish, they'll collect the carcass, they'll collect the heads, because they have to bring them back, remember, to be measured. But then they pass on the cost of disposing it to that charter person who contracted them to process their fish. Processing fish is one fee, removal of disposal, who they take it back over and grind it through Davy's grinder at Trident. And there's a cost, he pays per pound to Davy to grind it up. But again, back to, that's 10% of the use going on at our facility. And 90% are the people in 16-foot skiffs that have gone out for once or twice a year to get a little subsistence home pack, take it home, ziplock it, or they have homemade seal and meal deal at home, and they never go to Tonka, or they never go to Coastal. So it's hard to pass on. You know, if we did have a collection site, and if we did hire you know, Coastal or Tonka, or somebody that's down there very regularly. I've sat and visited with both Seth and Greg about this, and yeah, they could come up with something. They could come up with a, you know, babysitting, you know, activity. They could buy a truck and put it up in the parking lot, and they'd come down what they thought would deal, instead of a collection site, what they would actually deal with every single time somebody came in. They would gather it up and take it off site, rather than trying to lift a 200 or 300 or 400 pound box that we've collected all this stuff in, and, you know, push it up the float once a day, or, you know, what happens at, you know, 10 o'clock at night, or you know, I mean, realistically, people are bringing things in after business working hours, so you'd have to have somebody maybe come check it at 8, 9 o'clock at night, or check it first thing in the morning, and then check it again. You know, that kind of thing, at least once a day, if not twice. Talked to PIA about it, and we discussed a similar kind of thing, and they were thinking, yeah, well, they could probably handle a collection site, because they have a fertilizer program that that they right now go to Icicle, and they get whatever amount they need, and then go turn it into fertilizer, which they sell or do whatever. But he was thinking that maybe they'd wait until the collection box was full. So maybe once every couple weeks go down.
Yeah, so they want it fermented anyway.
So I
Someone's
said,
gotta crack the
no,
lid
we're
on that
gonna
one."
need, well, he's a staff of 2, which includes himself, you know, and the gals that are running around town picking up the collection, recycle bin, you know, so he could see that, you know, and he talked about putting, you know, a box like this, and so we talked a little bit, and I said, well, how would you propose to get it off the float? I couldn't let you take a jitney down there, or a you know, anything sizable, because that float couldn't handle it. So how would those gals get it up the float? Oh yeah, okay. Well, you know, there's a lot of discussion. He was not familiar. So I said, why don't you go visit what we're talking about, and maybe we can talk about something. But for me, needs to be, and that's the randomness that also creates an issue. In Sitka, it's 3,000 people 4 times a week going on a charter. In Homer, it's 10,000 people a weekend. in Petersburg, you know, it's pretty random. We could probably operate around the tide, you know, so that creates another issue. So again, I'm back to put it in code form if you want to go there, and at least give me the ability to ticket people when they're doing something stupid,
Mhm.
you know, which in my opinion is trying to get the sea lion to dance
Mhm.
for a picture or whatever.
What's your sense, Glow, about
But-
you turn the responsibility over to the 16-foot line?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward, but they can run out to the, with it. What do you think? What's your sense of compliance on that? I mean, would that be practical? I mean, it'd be practical for them to do it, or would they just blow it off?
We have enough tide here that I don't think that, I mean, realistically, I think you can work around something. I mean, in the middle harbor, you can walk it out to the end of the float. In the North Harbor, you can walk it out to the end of the float where you got a 4.5 knot tide. You can slip it in the water and it's gone before the sea lion even knows what you're doing. But it's the common sense factor that I think that people will get there if there's a code, if there's a violation attached. But right now, there's just not, I mean, they don't really even, it doesn't dawn on them that the once or twice a year that they do it is creating this issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's not the same people that are doing it.
Well, it's not like they're going to leave that station and walk up and go home. They're going to get back in their skiff again and go somewhere to put their skiff away, so they can
Yeah,
take
exactly,
care. They can take care on the way back to their stall. Yeah.
You know, and if they're
Yeah.
gonna trailer,
I'm
well,
happy to make the motion
I
to
mean,
make a recommendation because it's a public safety issue as far as I'm concerned, and it's a problem we need to address. So
Yeah, I
Jared,
would.
I asked Jared here, and maybe he's got.
Well,
I mean,
the biggest problem is a safety issue is the fact that the stuff is being thrown into the harbor and the still waters of the harbor, the inner harbor there, is that for sure is drawing them in. You get your big bulls that become aggressive over the time. They kind of guard it and they're well trained. They know when people are cleaning and they expect to be fed. And they get aggressive if they don't get fed. They get aggressive if they're hungry and they're waiting for you to do it. And they're even taking fish off the camera display from people at times when they aren't getting what they think they should be getting. So the big deal for me is get rid of that problem so we can then discuss whether the animal will go away or whether we need to make the animal go away. But until we get rid of
so
that.
when you say that, get rid of it, do you propose removing the fish cleaning stations
No,
there?
no, I think people should still be able to clean. It's just a matter of where you're going to allow them to dump their garbage, because that's what I'm looking at it as is their garbage.
yeah.
Theirs,
Yeah.
not ours.
But to me, you don't want to take ownership of their garbage in that location.
Or in the dumpsters.
No.
No.
We don't want it.
And so, when I was just thinking of this is if you went from the corner of PFI's ice house and ran because half a mile you run into a problem with the cannery's offshoots with the verbiage written in here of their grinder stations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went off the corner of the ice house at PFI, ran your line right down the face of your North Harbor dock, whatever that may be in the end, across the face of Ocean Beauty's front dock, across the face of your South Harbor front dock, the middle harbor kind of gets stuck inside of, but you leave him out, and then go all the way down to somewhere like the face of Petrol Marine, and that's your don't dump anything in this area. That's a starting point, and it still gives you options to do stuff off the end of your docks in the future. It doesn't limit your ability to whatever you dream up, whatever you decide that you want to do for the community in the future. It gives you the face of those docks to work with still. But in the meantime, it takes the dumping out of the inner harbors, which is right now the major problem. And it doesn't affect any of the canneries in what their day-to-day business is.
Right.
That's just the first thought that came to mind for me when I was looking at what a person could do to try to start this process.
I think that does it addresses the issue, because the real issue is safety, and
Yeah.
it puts the dumping in a place where kids are not. For example,
Yeah.
the kids aren't going to be necessarily
And-
out there, so
and-
except at the end of.
In
Fishing
Sitka,
standard.
they're taking their garbage, and I keep referring it to garbage on purpose. Is they're
Yeah.
taking their garbage back out to deep water.
Yeah.
And I think that's a training process. I think it's going to be a time process. But the first thing we got to do is stop the continued dumping in our inner harbor to try to address the problem we have currently. As far as how we're going to take care of the community in the future, I really don't know. That's something that people got to look at. Money dictates, and you know, there's different communities that are doing different things all over to try to take care of their community's needs there. But the first step is going to be to stop the dumping. And
I think you're right that the city, in my view, the city needs, or the borough needs to make this decision before DEC or somebody makes it for us, because they already make those canneries go through all kinds of hoops just to grind it and put it out. And if they come in, if there's a problem in the harbors, they're going to make our decision for us. So I think
Which
we
will
got
be
to
more
keep that in
expensive.
mind. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Draft an ordinance that puts some teeth into a boundary.
So if you were to clean your fish, and then it seems like it would be fairly practical to, use the fish cleaning table,
Yeah.
and then take your gurry into your boat, and then take it out beyond the dock line, is what you're
That's-
thinking. So,
yeah.
there's pretty good current going
yeah,
both ways.
I think it would help in the
Yeah,
very least.
and that would be easier than
Well, it's
taking
on
it
the move,
out.
Yeah.
you know, it's random, it's not.
Yeah, right.
Right now, he comes to one of three locations. There's
Yes.
three locations in the harbor, and that's where he hangs out. That's where people. The other problem you get is once in a while you'll get a commercial boat that saves all their halibut heads, and they go and cheek them in the harbor and
Right.
toss them over the rail, and you'll have 4 or 5 sea lions waiting there for the next head to come over the rail. Well, I'm not feeding, I'm cheeking.
It's within the boundaries of your feet.
Yeah.
So,
They're eating
yeah.
It's a
you.
fine line.
So if we just eliminate it and say it's got to go overboard
Yeah, it's
outside, it
boundaries,
takes care of that problem.
Yeah.
And so we can give Flo and your staff too, they'd have some teeth to write.
Yeah, write a
Yeah.
ticket.
And you can do
send
that
it to-
already,
Yes.
but you're just not around.
Well, the deal, the key is here is we still haven't fixed the problem. I could continue to write tickets all the time, but we still haven't addressed the problem. And because people will know whether I'm around or not, and if I'm not around, it'll be whoop,
Yeah,
stuff's gone.
that's how I operate.
But
So let's
can
do
you,
something.
okay,
so
Yeah,
I would rather fix the problem and work with the community trying to fix the problem than sit down there
Yeah.
writing $500 tickets to folks.
Okay, you had something you wanted to?
Got a ton.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can I ask that you either
Yeah,
come to
there's
the
a spot
table?
right here.
Just gotta get you on the recorder. And say who you are, please.
For the record.
My name is Craig Anderson. I've been a resident here for a little over a year, but I'm not unfamiliar with this issue. I came from Oregon, I came up to here, I'm from Idaho. I fished my whole life. And I just want to kind of bring a different perspective to this discussion.
I
because-
included your comments in their packet, so they.
This has gone further than I thought it would at this meeting already, about, you're almost to a point of a decision. And so I'd just like to interject here that, more regulation is not the answer. And until you give people a solution to the problem, i.e. a cleaning station that everybody can agree upon and process their stuff, if you just pass a rule and a regulation and you're gonna start writing people tickets without giving them a better alternative, I could just pretty well tell you I'd get mad if it was me. Straight up, we're not for more regulation. If you have regulation, it has to make sense. If you did not use the fish cleaning station we provided for you in the way, in the manner we provided for it to be used, you're going to get ticket X. If you keep doing it, you're going to get ticket Y and so forth. It's going to start ramping up being expensive. Just to say, we're going to put a new regulation in here, and if you're in this arbitrary line, well, there are people that don't live here full time. They live out at outer islands. They come in and out at different hours of the day. It's going to take a while for this process to go through for people to understand what's right and what's not, what's acceptable, what's not. And you can have an opportunity here to have you in a real conflict with somebody. If you're writing a ticket at 10 p.m., somebody comes in from a long weekend, doesn't know. And so just to alleviate the public angst part of it, I would just, my opinion would be that you would, before you do a one-step solution, you look at the whole thing. The first step may be to make this line that Jared suggests and pass a new regulation and let everybody know, but you have to give them the part B of that. We're also going to look at coming up with a new cleaning station location, then maybe look at processing this fish waste or garbage in a different way. You know, give them the rest of the story. Don't just give them just the pass this, you know, get fined $200 if you do this. Do you see what I'm saying? Just kind of a public education perspective. The other side of it is, for me, as a recreational user in South Harbour, particularly, is I don't like the fish cleaning station there. It gums up the boat launch. On a busy weekend, you've got 6-8 boats trying to clean fish, take pictures, do that stuff, and the guys are trying to come in and out, especially on lower tides. It's a one-position boat launch. There's no room for you to tie up to go get your trailer and back down. As the tide goes out further, it gets crammed shorter and shorter. Mix in a little current, little wind, it just gets real tight and cumbersome. So I would advocate, I wrote an email to Harbour here and just kind of just some suggestions. There are plenty of good examples in other states who have had this problem just as long, if not longer, and they've actually dealt with it. And the way they've dealt with it is, you pay your boat launch fees pay, or they're higher than here by quite a bit. Nobody likes to hear that, but you know, a $5 a day boat launch fee is actually really cheap there. Usually it's $10 to $15 a day per person. So you can get a seasonal use, you can do other things like that, but they provide a covered fish cleaning station above high tide, and they process the fish waste. You just get in your boat. The boat launch is the boat launch. It's for recovering and launching boats. That's what it's for. It's not for cleaning fish. The fish cleaning station is separate. And so they move the waste away from the boat launch, everything above the high tide line, and they do not have any problem with seals or sea lions. They just took it away completely. Now, if you're talking intermediate steps and talk about public safety, you want to do something for public safety. Right now, the fish cleaning stations I've seen, I don't believe are safe. There is no railing there. You tie up next to it, a sea lion can jump right out and get out there. Small kids can fall over the side. You know, you can kind of do a couple intermediate things. I documented a bunch of random thoughts in an email. So, but what I'm saying is just if we're going to go down this road, let's look at the long-term solution to the thing and come up with steps, shorter steps in the shorter term that will move us in that direction. And try to bring everybody along with you, not just make a decision and say, we're going to start writing tickets for the fish garbage in the harbor, because there's going to be some kickback. I mean, some people are not going to get the message, and I don't think anybody will willfully want to do anything wrong, but you might have an opportunity where somebody might get a ticket, and they honestly didn't know. I think if Jared talks to most people, he'll find that, I think he's already found that most people advocate are on your side. They want to do something about the problem. Just need to kind of lead them in the right direction. That's my first suggestion, I guess.
All right, well, thanks. I think signage is going to be critical if we do any kind of, you know, it's got to be an educational thing. And in town this size, it's pretty easy to get the word out to the commercial fleet, and to the charter guys, and the people that are renting skiffs. And then I think it's just a matter of not being a surprise to anyone. And I think we can deal with that.
I doubt the harbor staff would be inclined to, you know, zap people right off the bat. I think you guys would exercise your discretion and, you know, give people fair warning.
Jared's not a shoot first guy
Oh, I know.
kind of guy, you know.
Yeah.
So he'll talk to people first. There'll be a process of education. I actually think this is the simplest. You know, what you're suggesting as remedies, Part B, is complicated. It involves staff and money and different. You know, it's. You know, what we're trying to do right now, I think, is the simplest thing that can. It's not create more regulations. It's the simplest thing to try to address a serious problem. It's the first step. But it's very, very simple. This is your garbage. Take it away.
I've cleaned fish my entire life, and I was taught to smuggle the product back into the water.
Sure.
You know, not turn it into an issue. You take it out to the end of the boat. I mean, it's easy. There are numerous solutions, but they cost a lot of money if you want to go, you know, do it like he's suggesting. And we have pictures, oodles of pictures. I visited Homer's. That is gorgeous. $500,000 later, you can have a fish grinder and a person there standing by to grind the product or to truck it over to Icicle Seafoods to do it for you. There's numerous, you know, but I think this is a good first step.
And having this money, 220-some thousand is going to help.
Yeah, and
it's going to help a lot.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I mean, when you leave your garbage can out for a bear, you know, I mean, we have document. I mean, that's illegal. That, you know, in most places. So this is kind of the similar.
I was gonna say,
law
this,
for that.
passing an ordinance to this effect is by no means gonna alleviate the problem,
No.
but it's gonna be a start.
But it transfers the ownership of it too, because I've had just as many people that have, you know, have lived here for 50 years and have never used these fish cleaning stations, you know? And so you know, to make those harbor users foot the bill for, again, a lot of this is going to be on a group of people that you can't really pass the cost of on to. You know, you're not going to get, I mean, I played hell trying to get the $30 launch ramp up to 45 this year. Couldn't do it because the Fish and Game owns that float system. I mean, technically gave us the money with a sunset on it to do this. And once you enter into the agreement, and you can't go changing things, so we can't raise the launch ramp free.
With
So it's like, you know, let alone the negative feedback you get from people that.
With this
Right.
ordinance too, you know, it puts some teeth into, I mean, it's not just the sports and the subsistence guys that are feeding the sea lions in the harbors. I think we can all agree upon that, those of us that ever baited halibut gear or
be guilty
blackcod
of
gear,
that.
you know what I mean? So if there was an ordinance, then it would
It's
have to
backing up the
Yep.
federal.
One of the things, if I may, is you get the person who's dumping stuff over. Well, there's no sea lions here. Well, you're correct. So technically, you're not breaking the law and dumping all this stuff over. But 20 minutes later, well, I'm done dumping. I'm not dumping anymore. But now he's eating. Well, you've got that argument. Well, he wasn't technically feeding; he was dumping in the harbor, which is legal, and now it's eating. And so you get this catch-22 trying to fight back and forth on what was going on, and by just not allowing in the harbor at all, takes care of that problem
inside that boundary.
within that boundary.
And that-
My goal on this is that if we're working proactively toward it, my goal was this might take into next year. That was my goal, is to have this set up so that there weren't any
Surprise.
Sudden
surprise
changes.
teeth from me anyway coming out until we got into next year, except for people that just weren't going to work with the program.
Or like
Right.
continued
But
users.
if we have a continue working toward a solution to this problem, then to me I'm working with that. I don't want to go down to the dock and write a bunch of tickets for this stuff.
You don't want more calls from me either.
Yeah. So my hope was that to get everyone at the table working toward a solution, and as long as we're going forward with that, then we're doing something. Whereas before, we've gotten rid of animals, we've responded to calls and worked our way through the year until we quit having a problem, but we never took care of the problem. We never addressed the problem. We kept dealing with it year after year after year. And at this point, we got to deal with the problem. We can't just keep putting Band-Aids on it and hoping it'll go away later on in the season or the fall. Well, we don't see them after August and things like that. So as long as we're working proactively toward it, that's my goal, so that we get into going into the next fishing season with a plan and something that people are aware of.
Yeah, I'll
Make
make
a
that. I'll make I don't know exactly how to word it. I mean, someone needs to think about it for a while, but that we recommend to the city council that for the borough assembly that they draft an ordinance to prohibit dumping of fish waste in the boundaries that we talked about. And I actually think that might be enough. I mean, really clear. I mean, the problem isn't that sea lions exist. Inherently, they're not a problem to people. It's when you get them concentrated in one place and start getting, they think it's theirs, and they
Territorial.
yeah,
Is
and
this
they
all
and
part of the
that-
ordinance?
No, I'm sorry. You can put it in there if you want. Yeah, so I make the motion that we recommend to the borough assembly that they draft an ordinance.
And maybe
Takes
working
care
with
of-
Jared, so that he can have his input on where he thinks the line needs to be.
Glo, do you want
Yeah,
to
and-
input
we got-
on that?
we got
Yeah,
the
and
line
that
across the-
line
across
is
the-
really
across the-
where it's going to flush. That's where you want the line.
Well, you don't
And that-
want to. I don't think you want it to interfere with the commercial outflushes of the
Yep.
deal. You don't want to mess with those, 'cause that's a
Boundary.
huge
We don't wanna get
expense on them.
outside and,
I
Because
think,
everything that you put down, you have to be
Yeah,
able to
you're-
back up.
yeah.
You have
And-
to be able to.
and I think you want to leave at this time, I think you want to leave the outer ends of those
Yeah.
docks open for future whatever you guys decide to do for the community in the future, I think you want to be able to have them
Without having to go to ordinance.
without having to
Right.
go to an island out
Revisit.
somewhere or somewhere else, to be able to
Revisit that.
tie them off to the dock somehow.
Well,
And-
because literally, you know, I went down that road. What if we have an island off on its own, you know? That, we can't do that. The Creole people have got to be able, that's why it's where it's at. You know, we would love to have some place over on the Kupernoff shore for this, because the
Okay.
tide is way better. But you can't, the Creole people have to come down and be able to measure.
Okay, so we have a motion, we need a second to send in a recommendation. You second it? Okay. So we have a recommendation, and I hope you can carry the flavor of the discussion we had to the assembly for us, and I don't know if I'll be here, but, so what we're looking at is just coming up with a ban on fish waste in the harbor, inner harbor, and then draw whatever lines the assembly feels is appropriate
that
based
line?
on what we were talking about.
You and Logan together draw a line so they can show it to this one.
And I think
We could
that's a
call
real
it
good
the
idea.
Jared AB line or something.
AB line.
Don't put my name on it.
Okay, so all those in favor of sending a recommendation to the assembly to this effect, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one opposed. Okay, good. So
Thanks, Greg, though, for
yeah,
bringing that.
I appreciate that. If you come up with some ideas, I mean, we're going to go through this process of designing this fish station, and I think it would be great if we had some ideas that people have. I've been taking pictures in all other communities of their fish
One of the
stations.
things that, you know, with this facility being over, it's twice the size of what we have now, we do things like put the fish hanger in the middle of the float, not on the very edge, you know, those kind of things. Instead of maybe do the fish cleaning stations right up to the end, we can do them, you know, in 4 or 5 feet so that they're
Less
not-
tempting to.
Yes,
dump it off.
tempting, and you can create, see, these fish cleaning stations themselves are things that we've inherited from Fish and Game, the state Fish and Game. You know, and I put my name on a handicapped one, you know, because currently we don't have one in a wheelchair can get up there and things like that, so. But maybe we can throw some money at it too, and.
I don't
some
think it's good
state-of-the-art
that the sea land can see the fish you're working on. That's just, if there's a way to somehow do that and still have boats be able to tie up, you know, you can't have too many railings and walls, but
Right.
that's a great point. If they can see it, they're smart enough to know what's going on.
Well, there's like the current one, there really is no room for a safe retreat. People guys come up on the dock, you're stuck between
Yeah.
either getting back in the water with
Yeah.
him.
I agree.
or
It's
against another boat.
ridiculous.
Just,
And you
just
got-
from my perspective, it could be designed a little better.
Yeah.
It could be implemented a little better. And
Well, and
if this is what you guys are here for. and-
we want to have, we've put on a request for years and years to purchase those 2 pieces of property. One is for sale next between the fish cleaning state, or between the launch ramp
Cold
and the
storage.
cold storage, and put in a second launch ramp. And, you know, wouldn't that be nice? And maybe relocate this fish cleaning station on its own off of the fill that we're putting in on the drive down.
Well-
I mean, so there's, you know, slowly but surely we're moving towards some of these things, but.
I think the big picture is in designing something that's maybe out of the. I envision a keyway into a fish cleaning station with a skiff that has a tote, and they all go into the tote, and then the skiff goes over to the cannery once a day, or who PIA takes it, or something. Just some simple, inexpensive way to get rid of it. And I know we're not going to be able to keep putting it out in the narrows. DEC's not going to go for it. But
How about in the sewer? Can it be ground up and pushed in the sewage?
I don't think they like a lot of organics in there.
Well, I regularly
I know.
use organics in the sewer, so I don't.
I mean,
Certainly, yeah, if you have, I mean, the collection site that we're looking at for the new, the grid system, you're looking at about $475,000 to do a collection return. So, I mean, it's again, you gotta put it into perspective of if you know, that, who you're doing this for. So, yeah, because that's what we're looking at for the grid collection site.
And there may be some opportunities with, you've got a new outfit starting up out here that is getting a
Tonka
new grinder.
could
They have
be
new ideas, new
Manitowoc,
energy.
Yep.
We've got the other 2 deals that they will grind your stuff, but it's not gonna be for free. And so there's different things that we may be able to talk to them and come to some agreement between the three of them.
And that's why
To
I
help out
want to
there, too.
keep the fish cleaning stations in the harbor. Because I don't, the people I'm worried about are the locals in the 16-foot skiff that don't have,
Right.
an opportunity that all of us pretty much sitting here do, and be able to go aboard a big boat and clean it.
Greg's point is a good point, though, that I mean, if you're going to say this, this garbage belongs to you and you need to deal with it, and oh, by the way, you can carry your fish, you can park your skiff very close to the beach, walk up to the parking lot where the cleaning station is, and once you get it in the cleaning station, then you have places where forklifts can work. You can use a tote, you can lift it up, put it on a truck, you can run, you can use big equipment to move thousands of pounds of stuff very easily, rather than trying to bucket it out. I mean, that's crazy idea,
Yeah.
bucking it out of a tote into
Even-
something else. And
Even if they had set these dump stations up at each of the, if you could talk each of the three major businesses to put a dump station at their location, even if they had to take it that far, that's better than some of the other alternatives.
Well, I
I don't know if
approached
they would-
them,
I don't know
and
if they
they
don't-
said, not no, but
Right.
don't ever ask us to
that's
talk
right.
about
They don't
this
want. They
again.
don't want. They don't want the
I
public
mean, I have
crawling
a
around their
collection
facilities.
site during the salmon derby that sits up there on the dock, and I get birds, of
Right,
course.
oh, yeah.
I get every cat in town. I get all the rats coming up. No, seriously, and we have 3 mink that harvest this stuff all day long, daylight, everything. So it's not just as simple as putting it out there and.
No, it's-
I mean, if you put a floating skiff out there, I mean, pretty soon that sea line's gonna be in the skiff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like Templeton.
in Yakutat, we have pictures of, they have bears there, that literally the very big brown bears will come down the float and jump in their collection site, because they do have a floating collection site. And so they have theirs set up with barbs so that the brown bear can't jump in to the collection that is floating in the water. That's what will happen here. So we don't want collection sites,
Yeah.
Well,
no.
that brings up another point that I had before is, if you end up pulling this summer because of uses where things go south, you pull the cleaning stations, you're just gonna transfer the problem to my neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood that is full of kids. We already have black bears living there already. And we have the issues with just normal household numbers. If you start, every other house has a hell of a head in it for a couple extra days, then you're talking, you're just moving the problem from someplace where we sort of have like a little bit of control to someplace where we have none. And the danger's a lot more, and in my opinion. And so, I'm not advocating for spending money, I'm not advocating for doing anything else like that. I'm just saying is just keep the process transparent and let everybody know that it's going to be, there's a learning curve, we're going to try a couple different things. Just kind of make sure you keep pushing that message out, because otherwise people's backs will go up and they'll stick their head down and it'll just be difficult just because they can't. The model that I'm used to, which is like Oregon, Washington, California all have, they learned that sea lions, if they can't see it, they won't hang around. And so what they did, how they designed their new boat launches was with that in mind. It was pulling everything up off the high tide line where you can't see it. It's sped up a lot. With a public boat launch, there's oftentimes a little bit of misunderstanding about who's first and who's going to come out. And there's little snippets of somebody cut me off or somebody wakes somebody at the dock, and there's hostility. They did away with that, large part of that, by moving the cleaning stations off the dock. So nobody's fighting for parking, nobody's fighting for somebody's taking too long to go get their trailer, there's room for everybody, and you just focus on the launches to launch, the cleaning station somewhere else. And all of their large waste, crab waste, fish waste goes into a dumpster just for that. They have 2 dumpsters there, one for waste, one for regular trash. And it's probably expensive, it's probably not easy to fund, but the result is everybody seems to be a lot happier. And it ends up costing on busy boat launches, and then it jacked it up for recreational day use about $1.50 per launch fee.
We don't,
We sell
that's a
400
we're different.
launches a year.
Well, yeah,
so
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. It's trying to balance.
It'd go from
We don't have
30
20,000 people a month going through a boat launch versus 400 people. And I know a local guy. I would pay a bit more for having a better cleaning station. One that
Well, we've got them. Looks like we've got some money now to build a cleaning station. We just have to think about this for a while and figure out where we're going in the future, because there's gonna be some growth, I'm sure, and just we're gonna have to just think about it a long time,
Think future needs.
see how far. Okay. Well, does anybody have anything else?
Well, when with this cleaning a float grant, was there any specifics of how that float was going to be?
Float.
That
And pilings.
okay. So it would be kind of a satellite thing extending on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you already have something recommended that you got the grant for.
The engineers
Yeah.
did it.
Engineers did it mock up.
Yeah.
And it had no fish cleaning stations. I got those for free from Fish and Game.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if you guys wanna spend some money on it, you get to.
I'd rather
about that.
I'd rather see something like he's talking about upland with a grinder that goes into the sewer, and be done with it. I mean, 200,000 by a hell of a
Gloria
grinder.
doesn't want to collect. She's
No,
Hey, that'd be great. Wait, show me the money. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
we got property for sale for, where are you gonna put it? You probably have to buy those 2 adjacent properties. Okay, great. Put it in, awesome. Let's do it.
Well, it doesn't have to be very
Let's go
big.
for it.
No, and if it legally we could throw it into the sewer, it'd be a done deal. Just grind it. Throw it
Right,
in.
and hire somebody to monitor the grinder. Okay, whoever,
Maybe this is going to be enough.
That's exactly.
Let's cross our fingers and see
Yeah.
if this is
No
enough.
simple
Yeah.
solution.
Sea lions aren't a
Yeah.
problem. Like I said, they're not a problem until they are. And when they're congregated around someplace
We've
where
been
they
fighting this
around
issue
groceries,
for
I've been
That's a problem.
110 years.
hoping
but
that
if
we
you're
could
out in the
fish
narrows
for
or
years.
wherever, they're not a
They're
problem.
not
If
fun
we
to
could,
swim around.
you know what, if we could kill some whales, the sea lions would go back to brothers where they came from. Because that's where they used to be.
They got chased away
And they
from
got
there.
chased out of there, and now they're over on the mainland, and now guess what? They're over here living on the airplane float.
Maybe
I
we
mean,
need
now they're
whales
not
here.
even over on the mainland. How would we use away with some
Oh, and
killer whales?
Kind of brings up another flippant issue too, is, there's been people that have been hurt that I know. I saw one accident happen. A guy was trying to release a fish, an undersized cannabis pond in Oregon. Sea lion came up under the boat, grabbed the fish and him, and he yanked him over the side with 2 of his fingers on him. And
We
so,
had a guy,
when you
yeah.
have
47 stitches in his
Baby.
butt.
they have sea lions that are habituated to people. I've seen them down in the narrows when the sluice going, trolling people's boats, grabbing fish. People, the water's cold, nobody puts them in their coolers, and they go and pick fish on them. They're just getting too habituated to people. That needs to stop. And one of the ways to do that is
Oh,
dealing with this.
Always is.
well, we do have a recommendation for the assembly to put in an ordinance, so we're going that far, and then we'll just have to
See
figure out
see
something.
see if that works. It might just take care of the problem.
It's
So,
funny, we
motion to
took
adjourn?
we took the stations
Second,
out
moved
of
and seconded.
the North Harbour. Hasn't been back.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sea lions aren't there anymore.
It's been moved and
Aye.
seconded to adjourn, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Go.
Yeah. Yes.
I tried that.
Who gets to come pull the leopard if you launch him off of there?
I would love to do
Five bucks a shot.
I like the idea.
You did it
of
with a
putting that
baseball, hit
cra-
the.
Yeah, crowd launcher on the buoy.
Well, we got it, I think we